A very good day to all my listeners. I'd like to present my paper on venturing personal traits and skills acquisition on interest of venturing in professional occupation among higher institutional students. My name is Ibrahim Fahad Suleiman. In this conference, I would like to present this my paper, which is on the personal traits of and skills acquisitions among students, looking at how they tend to look at venturing themselves in professional occupation among their in their lives. So, looking at the content of this presentation, the introduction, the objectives, the research questions, literature review, and results, which will conclude with the conclusions. Of course, looking at the attitude of institutions and students, they tend to strive to see to give their best in their life, because the CGPA tends to be one of the determinants of their future, because this is how you can which is agreed upon that students tend to be gauged on. But we're looking at that, we can also see that there's issue of employability in the working space there, in the environment that they tend to be after they have looked at finish their studies. So students remain victims if their respective decisions were not attended by the institution, and they are tend to be affiliated to that institution in the future, because if they are not productive and they do not have a very good solid skills and also learning, that would be actually a very problem in their lives, because that's why some of these universities to have this attachment of students going for attachments, which like industrial training. And industrial training actually is one of those good programs that institutions needed to have and introduce to students, that they can have a very good future chances in getting jobs after they have graduated. So this research tends to look at the objective to determine the relationship between personal traits and professional occupation among the higher institutional student. The second objective is to identify the relationship between the skills acquisition and professional occupation. The third one is to examine the personal traits and the skill acquisition among the institutional students. The research question goes like this, which is, what is the relationship between the personal traits and also the professional occupation among higher institutional students? And the second research question is, what is the relationship between the skills acquisition and professional occupation among higher institutional students? The third research question is, what is the relationship between personal traits and skills acquisition among higher institutional students? So looking at this, we can understand that we have three research questions that we needed to answer in this research. Of course, before then, we needed to look at the literature review. Professional occupation planning in life after studies among students may be difficult. But with my introduction saying that if they should have like LI, which is the industrial training, is very important. Industrial training in the life of students is very good, because during their studies, they will understand that, okay, we needed to be attached with any organization being chosen by the student and looking at their respective specializations. They will be a very good time. A lot of students have gained jobs with this industrial training that they have experienced. With that, they will be coached for one semester. Looking at personal traits, which is associated to how students view their various capability in terms of knowledge acquisition in the higher institution of learning. Of course, they have their learning environment, how they've been associated with their peers, and how they've been going together in terms of seeking knowledge, and in terms of doing assignment, and all this is a contributor of how they have that personal traits to excel in their studies. The next one is looking at the skill acquisition. Workers in organization are expected to be well versed in some skills, and this why students needed some skills, not just only depending on the the theoretical aspect of studies, but what about the practical? They are going there to in the market to be marketable, to have their own future. They will not ask them what they have, of course, what they have studied in their respective institution. It is counted, but do they have any practical, any practical experience? That's why industrial training is quite interesting in in high institutions, so that we prepare students, graduate students, to be more when they have graduated, to be more productive and also marketable at the same time. So institutional has long ago with the intention of producing students with competence that can fit the current challenges, and that's one of the aims of our respective institutions, that they tend to prepare their own students to have what, to the market, so as to be marketable, and so that the student can also be fit to the market, what's really going on with this industrial training. Students were able to have a lot of jobs, and that's one of the beauty of the institutions, that they have introduced this system. Looking at the correlation of these the variables in this research, you have the occupational or the professional occupation, the personal trait, and also skills acquisition. We can see here from this table. Okay, let us go on one after the other. We can see from the personal traits, it has 0.225, and the skill acquisition has 0.256. Okay, and looking at the personal trait, which is more looking at it 2.6 2.67. Okay, in that aspect we can see that okay, the relationship, of course, it is not a very strong one, but it has impact. Okay, with skill acquisition. Here, what is the relationship between the personal traits? Okay, here, in terms of answering that, the personal trait says the occupation was investigated using the person product movement correlation coefficient. The primary analysis were performed to ensure that no violation of assumption or normality, linearity, and homozygosity. So there was a low positive correlation between the variables. Okay, we have 22.2. Okay, which is the sample size, and looking at the 22.2, which is the sample, and also we have the sample size is 30, which is greater than 0.005, with low level of personal traits associated with the low level of professional occupation. Perhaps it is low, even though it is low, but there's still impact on that. Okay, there's still impact on that. Let us move on to the next one. So what is the relationship between skill acquisition and also the professional occupation? We have here the relationship was performed, and also the preliminary analysis also was performed, so that not to violate that. What do we have here now? We have the variable here says the correlation is 0.256 with the population, with the sample size of 30, which is greater than 0.005, with low level of personal trait association with low level of professional which is low level of of course here is this skill acquisition, actually. Okay, looking at the skill acquisition, which is it says here about the personal trait and also the professional occupation. Okay, so in looking at that, we can understand that here the relationship is so low. We can see also from this table, the relationship is so low. So if this is low, we can see that perhaps there's also relationship, even though there is a positive one, but it's a low one, still there's an impact. So in conclusion, we can conclude that the venturing of students by acquiring, having a personal trait and also skills acquisition, it is a positive measure that the universities could introduce, even though the positive relationship was a low one, because it's all is below 30%, which is low in looking at the correlation perspective. But still, there is a requirement that the university could be a very good, space for students to have this professional personal traits, professional, and also skills acquisition on with the professional occupations. So with this study have concluded that there's a low um, positive relationship between the skill acquisition and professional occupation and personal traits and professional occupation. Okay, thank you very much for giving me your ears, and see you next time. Okay, thank you. Goodbye.